Hey y'all, this is AL Thick Madame, and this is the recap review for Delilah. So, on this third episode of Delilah, it starts off on the wrong foot. This heifer Leah, the set up here and left out the most important details of what had been going on, which is she met old boy online and they were a discreet item. He specifically was seeking out people like her and all of this, and then she eventually came on and started working for him, and he was paying her rent and all this other stuff. I'm like, girl, why would you leave all this out? Like, she specifically told Delilah that she was not here fighting and bopping, and that he fired her strictly only because of her asking around about the other person. And so, of course, Delilah done went off like, you should have told me all of this, got her out here looking crazy. And so she was like, moving forward, make sure you tell me everything. Is there anything else you need to tell me? They actually have the person coming from the Observer to interview her and to get her story out there. Y'all, they had this person up in there interviewing her. Delilah's phone kept blowing up. So eventually she stepped outside because her brother called her. And she let the brother know that she in the middle of a meeting right now or whatever. And so the receptionist asked her how's everything going in there. And she was like, yeah, everything's going amazingly well, surprisingly enough. And there, she walked back in the room and inappropriate questions are being asked. Like, okay, so how many other men's names are in the phone? And was he the only one you was talking to around that time? And this heifer had been talking to other people on the app and all this other stuff too. Like, so Delilah was like, oh, this interview is over and these are inappropriate questions. Y'all, come to find out after all that was not even the reporter. This was some random person who came. I'm thinking that it's somebody who is from the company who came to get this heifer to drop a dime on her own self and to get her own self caught up. Because the real person who was from the Observer came literally a minute after all of this was found out. And we just looking like, what? Y'all, so Delilah done set up here and called Tamara and was like, how dare you? And it's funny because she was actually in the middle of watching her daughter's recital again. And she was like, hey, girl, I'm watching, I think, what's her name? Maya? I don't know. I ain't gonna sit up here and lie. I forgot her name. I think it's Maya and Miles or what her children's names are. She's like, I'm just watching Maya's recital again. And I mean, she really was sitting up there enjoying it. Delilah going off, how dare you? Why would you do this? You betrayed me. And so she was like, hold on, wait a minute, what are you talking about? She was like, how dare you send somebody over here to do all these things? And then she was like, I don't know what you're talking about. And then she gets a notification on her computer and she tells Delilah to hold on for a minute. She was like, why? Well, Delilah starts to hear the recording in the background because, of course, this interview was being recorded. Delilah don't want to hear no more. She done hung up in his heifer's face. And it's to the point where she done rolled up in the office of the guy who gave her this task, this case, and was like, how dare you? And, you know, she done went off and somebody else was in there, so she's trying to apologize. And so he was like, no, it's all right. We were finishing up anyway. So, look, everybody tired, the most going on. She done had to go over to the VA to see about her brother. That went off on the brother because at this point, what is going on? Do you feel like you're incompetent and you willing to let all of this stuff go on with your raggedy wife over here, busting it wide open, telling them to bring it back with this other dude because you feel like you ain't gonna be able to do nothing for her no more because you feel guilty that you went out on a second tour when she didn't want you to? I'm gonna need for you to understand that she ain't got nothing going on. Yeah, you are injured right now. You are going through rehab. You could take your money, even though it's not that much, it's still more than what this heifer apparently has to her name. You could take your money and have a live-in or somebody who drop by and help you with physical therapy until you get back to a decent, quality of life and raise your child by yourself. It just seemed like he done gave up on life. It's like he know what's going on with her, their friend, and all this other stuff. No, what we not finna do is this. She living off your dime. She doing the most and hurting y'all child in the process. That's the most important part of here. She over here lying, oh, I'm gonna come get my son. She ain't been that way. She ain't even dropped by to say hey to the child. You can at least start there. Apparently this heifer don't care nothing about this child. All she cares about is this man, this other dude, and letting him run her. These women need to stop letting these people run them, whether it's a man or a woman, no matter what your sexual preference is. You need to stop letting these dumb people, stop letting these raggedy people run you, and especially the ones who have kids. I've noticed that a lot. And I'm telling you what I know. These people let them run them. They distance themselves from their family and their friends and all this other stuff. I done been there, done it like a dummy. I will never do that again. Let nobody sit up there and try to alienate me and all that from my family and my friends. It's crazy. And I'm talking about, it was just to the point where I would speak to people sparingly and all that. That ain't cool. I should be able to be myself. You should not have an issue with me being on the phone talking to my mama. You shouldn't have an issue with me being on the phone talking to my daddy. You should be having an issue with me talking to my friends every now and again who knew full well that I'm in a full-blown relationship with you. Don't sit up here and do everything and set it off for a random person over your child and or over your family. That is ridiculous. But that's what this heifer doing. And so Delilah done went up there to the VA hospital and went off. Everybody tired. Like, this is too much going on. So as we all know, Delilah has had a hellish day. So she at the house, everybody at the house, but the son, yet again, Miles, I think is what his name is. He finally come in. She says, where have you been? Oh, Lord, this boy keeps going to this park, and I keep telling y'all, I'm not saying it. I'm not going to say nothing. I'm waiting for y'all to get down in the comments and say what it is or what y'all think it is. But I think that there's a specific reason she don't want him to go to that park, and it ain't got nothing to do with him being black. I don't think they got nothing to do with it. I don't think it got nothing to do with the sex trafficking and the kidnappings and all that stuff. I don't think that's what it is. But y'all can get down in the comment section and say it, and I will say, yeah, that's what I thought it was too. But until that time, I ain't saying nothing. Unless somebody get down in the comment section and say it, or they actually reveal it on the show. But she had a conversation with him and was like, I made a promise to you once you came out of my womb that I would always protect you. And I intend on keeping my promise. Like, he act like he understand, but it's like, boy, you do not understand. People don't care about nobody around here. People are evil. They will kill you just because you are you. They don't care. But yeah, I think I know what it is, but I'm going to wait on y'all. So Delilah has called her child's father and was like, you already know what I got to deal with trying to raise a young black man in America. I just feel like that's a part of it. A small part. Well, not a small part. Y'all know what I'm saying. But I feel like that's a part of why she don't want him there. But he be there after dark. And the daddy let him go over there and be over there all times of the night doing what he want to do in the park. And she had to let him know, I'm going to need you to understand. The most is going out here in these streets. You know what happened to that other child the other week. Some child got killed out there by the police, I guess. And so he was like, he's not that child. She was like, yeah, he's not dead. And so, y'all, the heifer who he with and got real mighty bold, and she over there talking, just don't take it, just hang up the phone. And Delilah was like, who is that? And so he gonna end the conversation, get off the phone. And she looking at her phone like, yep, I knew it. But girl, this heifer that got bold. Like, girl, you ain't got the first ring or paperwork. I'm gonna need for you to go somewhere and sit down. And even so, if they talking about their kids, why are you parting your lips to say anything? Go somewhere and sit down. Today is the first day for the new hire, and she got there early. She's sitting on the steps, and the receptionist then rolled up in her car like, you're here early. And she was like, yeah, I just want to, get a jump on things. And she was like, okay, well, I'll let you in a few minutes. So she went and parked her car. She got out, looked like she was bracing herself for the day because old girl can kind of be a lot, but I feel like it is well-needed energy. They need to all take a couple of little sips from the drink that she's sipping from. That's what they need to do. But anyway, so she went in the back and she opened the door for her, and she was led to what her office is going to be. And, she's going to set it up the way she wanted to be and all of that. And so Delilah came in not long after that and wanted her to get started right away on looking through the documents that were in that shed of the guy who killed himself. And, she told her that she got to wear gloves and all of that, and that while she's going through everything, she's going to have to put everything back exactly the way she found it, because it might be used later on in a murder investigation, and the police are going to be sifting through it. So we don't need no traces of none of them up on it. So she looking like, oh, okay. Y'all, so Delilah is in the middle of working from home and like looking through some stuff, and the guy, the little fine dude who was, doing the catering, I guess you could say, he was cooking and all that at the little gathering that Tamara had, he called her. And so she was shocked to hear from him, but Tamara gave him her number, and she was just like, I'm just kind of shocked that, you're calling me, and I didn't expect you to call me, didn't know you had my number. So old boy trying to shoot his shot a little bit, and I'm kind of here for it. I'm kind of here for it because he was like, well, I'm doing pretty bad apparently because I've called you. And he was like, well, hopefully everything will be squared away pretty quickly because he wants to take her out on a date. But she was like, me and Tamara are having, we're working on this case and it's a lot. And so, for her, she was just like, I don't know, this got to be over with. So he was like, I'm going to pray that it's over quickly. So she was like, you pray? And he was like, yeah. Is there a problem with that? She was like, no, I just haven't gone to church in so long. And so like, he really feel like he is like really not hitting the mark. But she was like, no, I'm thoroughly enjoying this conversation. So they hit it off, and then they get off the phone. And I'm like, I don't blame you. So earlier, before this even happened, Tamara was talking to her man, and he came outside because she was on the balcony just out looking. You could tell she's still in her feelings because of everything that's going on between her and Delilah. And she was just like, how can somebody, impersonate somebody? Isn't that a crime? And so he actually goes into this legalese moment. And so she was like, how do you know so much about this? And so he was like, well, me and old boy, we've actually impersonated an architect before. They were in town in Chicago one day, and they were there for an exhibition game, and they wanted to see something. And so they were posing as architects, and that's how. And so this is like very shocking to her because he's never told her this. And then it's like he goes into this let me roll up on your neck moment. If I have to grab the back of your neck to make you listen to me. But he was rolling all up on her neck, and she was like, you know how I feel about you trying to change the subject and use sex as, a way to get out of something. And so he tried to make it seem like that's not what he doing, but he done rolled all the way up. And I'm just like, okay, y'all. So tell me why the ex-husband Gordon is at the house and he's doing this virtual meeting. I don't know if he's doing anything with other teachers or whatever. I think it's another teacher because I think he's a teacher. And if I'm not mistaken, the heifer that he's with is a teacher who he was with before, and then they broke it off, and then now he's back together with them. So anyway, the heifer rolled up in the house while he was finishing the communication that he had going on with whoever this heifer is that was on the Zoom meeting on the video chat. And so she came to him and was like, well, my landlord came to me and my roommate and said that we got to be out in 3 weeks. They selling it or whatever they're going to do. And so he was like, yeah. So I'm guessing that this is the part of the conversation that goes back to you want to know if we can move in together. So you could tell he ain't here for it. And he was just like, I just want to do things decent and in order. So she looking like, what that even mean? And you could tell that I'm just like, girl, I understand you young, but you can't be this dumb. Even though he trifling in his own right, I feel like what he's saying to her is that I want us to get to know one another, continue to date, we get married. You ain't even met my kids. You think you're gonna move in over here? Like, girl, you doing the most. That's what I feel like he wanted to say when he said. So she in her feelings because the other person, they already got somewhere that they can go. She ain't got nowhere to go. And so she get in her feelings, and she was like, just forget our ass. And so she was like, well, I mean, hopefully I can at least do my work over here. Is that okay? And so she get in her feelings. I'm like, girl, y'all ain't got no paperwork on each other, honey. What is you mad? You cannot get mad. You cannot sit up here and expect the world of somebody who ain't even gave you permission to say hey to his child or none of his children, honey. So what you thought you was finna get? You think you finna move in? You ain't even met the kids, girl. Bye, girl. Bye. So anyway, back in the office, old girl, she done kind of spruced up her area, and she done told the receptionist that she gonna bring a plant in and a humidifier, and then she be set. So old girl was like, you ain't even got a window, and she was like, yeah, I know, I got a plan, and like. The receptionist and Delilah crossed paths, and she could tell that the receptionist is just not here for her, and she just was like, you're the best, you're the best. And I'm like, girl, you're gonna be changing that tune very soon, because she's not. Old girl be catching on to everything. Delilah wanted her to file everything under a certain way of doing things, which is an old way. She was like, well, it's easier to do it this way. Wouldn't you want me to do it like that? And she was like, no, I'm this type of girl. And so she likes her documentation to be a certain way, some old way that don't nobody really, it's not upgraded. And so she was like, okay, it is what it is. And I think it takes longer to do it the way that Delilah wants her to do it, but whatever. And so Delilah didn't even know what she was talking about. And so she asked the receptionist what it was. And she was like, oh, it's the new filing system for how you do whatever it is that you're doing, y'all. And I was just like, oh, Lord. Heifer, y'all don't even be knowing what's going on. Either you don't know or the receptionist don't be knowing what's going on, or whether or not she making some up or not. Like, I'm going to need for everybody to get their life together, because how y'all don't know this stuff? Y'all are in the legal profession. And, like, even with me, even when I get back into social work, I know how it go. Social work is constantly changing. You have to be up on all this stuff. You can't just sit up here and be like, well, I'm this, and so it just is what it is. No, you have to constantly be filling your mind up and your memory bank up with all of these constantly changing things that is going to be beneficial in the long run, because so much stuff changes over time. I'm just like, what's wrong with y'all? But anyway, I just saw that, and I was like, how y'all don't know none of this stuff? Don't nobody be knowing nothing. One other thing before I forget again. So the woman who's the new hire, she mentioned something that was, very interesting to Delilah. Delilah already knew about the case. And so she's like, how did you know about all this? She was like, oh, well, I keep up with, the local, goings on. And, I was like, you better do that. Like, I'm here for it. Like, she really is very suitable for the job. And, oh, girl, better watch her back. It's finna be a wrap. So anyway, Delilah is at the house. And Mason is there, the guy who always runs the errands and runs and does all this investigating and all that for her. I'm getting a feeling that they used to be a thing, but I don't know what's going on. So anyway, he over here talking about after the kids are put to bed, let's play Uno. And so she was like, you used to fry me for wanting to play Uno, and now you want to play. And he was like, look, you warmed me up to it, and now I want to play. And so she was like, well, the last time I went to the VA, I think that Dion left him there with his daddy, so we might not be able to do that. And the reason why I'm thinking that they used to be an item is because I think they're drinking wine. And so he was like, is this a specific type of wine or whatever? And she was like, yeah, I think it's the wine that you left like over a year ago. And I'm like, what you mean left over a year ago? Y'all used to be entangled or in a relationship or something. What's going on here? But anyway, unless they live together. That's the only other explanation for me. So anyway, but yeah, they talking, and then she gets a knock at the door, and so she asks the kids, in the other room, did they invite anybody over to dinner? They said no, and so she went to the door, and it's her daddy. You already know she has terrible, bad blood with her daddy. He'd have rolled up because Nate called him earlier in the day asking him to take his son out of her house because he in his feelings. And I'm just like, you gonna get mad because your sister came in there and read you down and told you the truth, and now you want to take the child out of the house? That boy loves to live in that house with her. He loves the environment that he is in. Delilah shows him everything that he should be getting from his mama and don't get. And then some. But you want to snatch him and uproot him out of the house? See, this is what I'm talking about. You trash. So now you making me think that you really aren't the type of father that you should be. And maybe she should just have full legal custody of your child, and you'll have visitation rights, supervised for a little while. I don't know, like, see, stuff like that make me mad, because it's like, your child's in a great environment. Why would you do this? But anyway, I digress. The social work in me it just boils it boils my blood. I can't even speak. But anyway, so the daddy done rolled up talking about something. He called me and he said that he wants him to live with us. And so she was like, what? And so she talking to him and was like, why would you sit up there at his lowest moment and try to come through? Apparently he's been a terrible father and ain't here for nobody. So I'm trying to understand what, and I want to know more details about this terrible relationship, because from what I can gather, the last time before the daddy showed up, they made it painfully obvious that the daddy ain't been there. The daddy ain't been around. Neither one of them were here for him. So what in the world was he doing or not doing while they were growing up in their impressionable years? Because apparently he just ain't it. He ain't the daddy of the year. He ain't no real men recipient or nobody that's goals. Like, I can't. I'm a daddy's girl, so stuff like this always triggers me because I'm like, I cannot relate. Can't relate to it at all. That is trash. So anyway, she was like, I'll be back. So she went in the house and grabbed him up. He wanted to know why his granddaddy there. So she went out back to try to talk to him. She had to ask God to give her the strength and the words to be able to say what she's trying to say. And she still couldn't speak. So the little boy was like, why I gotta go with Paw? And I don't want to leave. I want to live it with you. I'm like, boy, you about to make me cry up in here. You about to make me cry up in her. But yeah. And she done went back outside and said he ain't going nowhere. He gonna be here. It is what it is. And he gonna try to pull a fast one, talking about some, you the lawyer of the family. Now, does my son have the right to have his child to be placed where he wanted to be placed? And I'm just like, if you don't go somewhere and sit down. But anyway, she'd have told him off rip, no, he ain't going nowhere. You can come back with a warrant, but he ain't going nowhere. And then she slammed the door in his face. And I'm just like, yeah, you know you're wrong. Because she read him and was like, how you going to go to him and try to appease him in his lowest moment, knowing good and well what it was? You know you're wrong. Go somewhere and sit down. Y'all, everybody seems to want to come over to Delilah's house tonight. So initially, Delilah invited Mason over. And apparently she makes amazing spaghetti and meatballs. And I'm like, girl, what in the world is going on that somebody is living for spaghetti and meatballs to the point where they're like, I had to drop everything I was doing to come over and have your spaghetti and meatballs. Are you making the pasta from scratch? Are you adding a different kind of meat to the meatballs? What kind of from scratch sauce are you making, ma'am? And are you doing it with something else outside of the normal Italian ingredient? What is, y'all, I really need to know what is going on, because I am an amazing cook and I'm an amazing baker. And y'all see all this. It ain't got nothing to do with that. This is me being a food addict, why I look like this, but I actually can cook and bake exceptionally well. But I just need to know what in the world this heifer got going on. Y'all, anyway, to cooking me, I need to know what it is. But anyway, so he's over there and she's kind of bribed him to come over there and, you know, just to kind of vent and talk about some stuff. But anyway, the daddy done popped up. Then the best friend, Tamara, done popped up, and she's coming over there trying to make peace. She done brought tacos and like some champagne or wine, not knowing that she already got a whole family situation going on. The daddy just came and dropped a bomb and tried her, so she in her feelings. So she's like, I cannot do this with you right now. And she was like, we made a pact. We will never go to bed angry at each other. And all you're going to do is call me later. So just get your phone and call me right now. And so she was like, you don't understand. I just went through it with my daddy. My daddy trying me over his son, trying to take him up out this house. I'm not going to let him snatch him up out this house. So she now is understanding why everybody is kind of looking at her like, hey, because you over there speaking to everybody looking at you like, girl, I ain't trying to be, I ain't trying to feel her wrath. I'm not trying to feel Delilah's wrath, honey, but hey, bye. I ain't got enough to say to you. Ain't no conversation to have. And so now she's understanding as to why. Outside of the case, she ain't really trying to talk to her right now, but she was like, you know, we'll have our time. So she leaves, and you could tell she's really sad when she left. So the door bell go off again. I'm like, who in the world is it now? Y'all, it's the new person. It's the new hire. She came over, and I was wondering why she gasped and looked like, oh my gosh, when she was going through the box. So she came over to the house. She has presented her with different things that on all these different reports with all these accidents that happened involving those radios, all of them have a roundabout way of saying that there was a malfunction with the equipment, which was basically those radios that did the most. And that's how they've been able to have everything to fly under the radar. Well, the most damning evidence of all of this was that she done gave this woman a copy of the file, and she opened it up, and I'm looking like, why did she get her eyes wide earlier? Why were her eyes wide? Y'all, they had a whole file in there on her brother Nate. Now, Nate said he don't remember what was going on. He don't remember what happened. All he know for a fact is that he got ambushed. Well, it had something to do with these radios. He had already, she'd already talked to him before, and he said he'd heard of them, and that, it just seemed like a normal radio. In my mind, I'm like, okay, did he get paid off? Like, what is, like, or does he really not remember? Like, there's just so many different thoughts going through my mind, and I'm just like, the plot thickens and then some. Like, this is too much. So she gonna have to talk to her brother, even though she don't really want to talk to him right now, because how he tried her with that little boy that she been taking care of. And y'all, it's too much. Anyway, hopefully y'all have enjoyed this recap review of Delilah. I have been thoroughly enjoying this show. Hopefully y'all have been as well. Let's get down in the comments section and discuss it. Thank y'all so much. Subscribe to my channel and like this video. Bye.